All right, today we're taking a look at a brand new multi-band dynamics plugin from Schulz Audio called OOMPH. Now, Ben was nice enough to give me a version of this to take a look at, and I want to share it with you guys because it's really awesome. And this is not a sponsored video, but there will be a promo discount for you guys down below in the description. All right, let's hop on into it. So as aggressive as this plugin can be, it can also be very, very subtle, which is really cool. And if you were doing EDM or any kind of hard electronic music, this would probably be a must-have. It is really, really powerful, but I want to demo it in something really soft today so we can really hear the nuance of the plugin as well. So as you can see in the interface, you have a multi-band interface here, and you could just drag and drop these bands around. So right now I have the subs or lows set at everything below about 100 hertz, and then you could drag the mid around. I have mine set around 600 right now, and the high at 8K. So you have 4 bands that you can process here. Each band you turn on and off like this. You can mute, you can solo, and this is a link. So if you link as many bands as you want and then you adjust the control, it will all adjust together, which is a really nice time saver there. But I'm going to leave them all unlinked for now. And down below the display, you have inflate and curve. And I will show you guys the spectrum analyzer on a sine wave here in a little bit. And you can drive that into a clipper. When the C is highlighted in blue here, you're driving it into the clipper. And the curve is a basic tone shaper. It sounds to me to be like a high band EQ. And below that, we have pump and release, and in between the L for the limiter. And the pump is basically a gain driving the limiter. So if you don't have the limiter selected, pump will basically serve as a gain. And if you have the limiter selected, you can drive pump into the limiter and set the release however you like it. And anytime you double click, it'll set things back to 0. If I crank that up and double click, back to 0. And another really cool feature on the inflate, if you hold down Alt and then adjust the inflator, you'll see that the level dipped down. So it's like an auto output adjust, an auto gain adjust. So as long as you hold Alt, you can have an auto gain adjust so you can gain match and level match and hear it accurately. And one of the coolest features is down here on the bottom, every band comes with mid-side. And when you click this little box, it opens up. It defaults to stereo. You can set it to mid-side, mid, or side. And I'll show you all that in a second. And then at the bottom, you have another version of each of these bands for the entire output. So you have a 4-band processor, but technically a 5th because all of it sums to the post section here that you can bypass on and off. And then you have the inflator saturator for that, a clipper for the master as well, another curve, pump, limiter, release, and another mid-side option for the entire plugin. So that is fantastic. And then at the bottom, you have an input and an output meter. It tells you the LUFS right here in loudness of your output. And at the very bottom here, this window opens up the quality that you're processing in, and it's recommended that Ultra is fine for most situations. Extreme is what I have it on. It will take a little bit more out of your CPU. And then I'm running at 44.1 here, but you can run at 48, 96, all the way up to 384K. And the oversampling options are great. And it also offers a look-ahead slider right here, so you can adjust your look-ahead. It defaults to 10 milliseconds. And the other really cool functions here are up here. There's full preset control, so you can save and name presets and create favorites, and you can also copy and paste presets into other instances of OOMPH. It's basically a 5-band multi-dynamics that's set up to be really, really user-friendly, quick and easy. And like I said, if you were doing electronic music, you could drive stuff really hard and with one plugin do a ton of compression and tone shaping and saturation all at once. So this basically can serve as a multi-band clipper. It can serve as a multi-band saturator, a multi-band compressor, and multi-band mid-side processor. So there's a lot going on here all in one, and it's really easy to use. All right, so first I want to show you guys just the inflator function of OOMPH. And this is an instance on the drums, and there's nothing else on the drums right now. I removed everything else, so it's just OOMPH and this track. There's some nice easy brush work. It's a really mellow piece. So the idea here is I'm just going to use the inflator on the mids. So let me show you in the spectrum. You can see the fundamental of the snare is just below where I've set this low mid band at 145. You can see the fundamental right there. It's down around 125, 130. So I have this low band here and the mid band here are linked together. That's this little control right here. So basically between 145 hertz and 7K, these two low and mid bands are linked together. And the idea here is I'm going to use the inflator on the mids of the drum kit to try to increase the brushwork of the snare to help it punch through the mix better. And this is an alternative to a multi-band upwards compressor. This is going to create basically no noise whatsoever, and I'm not going to have to worry with threshold and a ratio or any of that because this is all just program dependent, and that way you guys can see the algorithm and what it's doing. So I'm not going to be using the pump or the limited release or any of that or do any mid-side work right here. And I want you to see down at the bottom, I have turned the input gain up 6 dB and the output down 6 dB to drive a little bit harder into the circuit because this was a quiet piece. So this is like effectively gain staging the plugin. And I'm running, my quality is set to ultra and the oversampling is set to 4 times, and that's the recommended amount. And you'll hear that it works great. There's not any aliasing or any issues going on as a result of this. And now I'm going to hold down Alt as I crank up the inflator, and the level will decrease accordingly so we're level matched. So we're just hearing the difference. Yeah, and it's very subtle, but you can hear the brushes come up a little bit. Let's pop it in the mix. Yeah, and I have the clipper selected on both of these. So we're driving the saturator into the clipper, and you can tell that it's not giving us any harsh clipping at all. It's working really nice. Yeah, so I just wanted to demonstrate that for you. Now let's hop into the spectrum analyzer and I'll show you the kind of harmonics that this inflator is producing. Because like I said, this plugin can be used very subtly or very, very aggressively. So it all depends on how you use it. But this is a very subtle application and it's wonderful. You can hear that very gently the brushwork of the snare, they all come up a little bit, but the fundamental of the snare is not really affected. Just a really neat application of this multi-band dynamics processor. So let's hop over and take a look at the spectrum analyzer. So all we have is the low band here, and I have it set 80 hertz to 120 hertz. So we're just hitting 20 cycles on either side of this sine wave at 100 hertz. And everything else in here is turned off. Now, if I crank the inflator, you can see the harmonics start to come up in OOMPH analyzer up here, and it's almost identical in Voxengo's spectrum analyzer. And if I crank it, you'll see. But I wanted to show you this for a few reasons. First of all, you have all odd harmonics. That's very good to know. And if you turn on the limiter and crank the pump, you can see what it's doing. That's fantastic. But with the inflator, what I wanted to show you here about the curve, you know, the curve is supposed to take the edge off of the high end. If you use a lot of the inflator, it's going to get bright. Because it's kind of like an exciter up here at the high range. You can see exactly how high all of these are going here. You know, the harmonics are going all the way up the spectrum there. So if I turn the curve all the way up, you could see the harmonics change. That is pushing extra harmonic content up there. Now, when you turn the curve down, obviously you hear like a high-end shelf kind of taking the edge off, but it's also boosting the harmonics. And right in here, if you're turning the curve down, somewhere in between 2 and 4%, check that out. Right? So now we just have the one harmonic showing and most everything else is gone, and that's at negative 3.6%. And that's 4.8. They start to come back up. And there's a little spot here where this second order harmonic is almost gone, but right in between -2 and -4%, you do have some interesting stuff going on. Right there is -2.8. That's -3.2. So I just wanted to show you that. That's really interesting. You might find some unique uses for the curve function in this plugin if you stick with somewhere between -2 and -4 on the curve. You might get a nice little mellow tone by doing that. So I just wanted to show you guys that, because that's I don't know if that's part of the design or not, or if it's just the way that the cookie crumbles here, but it's good to know these things. That's why it's always good to hit a sine wave and take a look in the spectrum analyzer whenever we're adding harmonics and see what the plugin's actually doing. So very cool. Now let's take a listen to this. Let me bring the vocals in. Let me show you an instance of this on the vocals. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just use oomph to really center the vocals in the mid-range. So let's say I just go for like, I don't know, 300 to, that's 1.2.
If you're looking for change, he don't live here anymore. Oh no, he left the other day.
And you can hear that just a little goes a long ways on something like a vocal. So that's at 26%. Now let's go ahead and hit the high end of the vocal a little bit.
If you're looking for change, he don't live here anymore.
Bypass the plugin.
If you're looking for change,
And back on.
if you're looking for change,
And now we can add some limiting just to the high mids, and a little goes a long ways with this pump control.
if you're looking for change, he don't live here anymore. Oh no, he left the other day. He
Bypass.
don't live here.
And back on. Yeah, very nice. So it's a really quick, easy way to add harmonics, do mid-side processing, do some compression, some boosting, some tone shaping, and just push that vocal right out to the front, fill it out where it's weak, all that good stuff. Now let's take a listen to an instance on the master bus.
If you're looking for change, he don't live here anymore. Oh no, he left the other day. He don't live here. Ooh.
Yeah, so right there, basically, I saturated the entire mix, added a little bit of limiting to it, expanded the sides a little bit, boosted the subs, given that kick and the low end of the bass a boost, and then I saturated my low mid band and my high mid band a little bit, and I also saturated the high end and turned the EQ down on it to make up for the added harmonics while expanding the high part, everything above 8K even more. So real quick and easy there, and then I'll go back and forth. This is bypassed, and then I'll turn it on. And again, this is the instance on the master bus.
If you're looking for change, he don't live here anymore. Oh no, he left the other day. He don't live here. Anymore.
Yeah, very cool. This plugin can do a lot, and it's really easy to use. It's very intuitive. So I really can't recommend this enough. This is just a really well done all-around dynamics processor that gives you a lot of capabilities, and having all the mid-side processing as well is just really, really cool. Yeah, so thanks for checking that out, you guys. Check out the promo code in the description box below this video and get a discount on this. Support Schulz Audio. That's a one-man developer project over there. Really, really well done, Ben. That's very cool. I appreciate Ben reaching out to me and giving me this plugin to check out, and it's really fun to share with you guys. So I hope you guys like it as much as I did. Thanks a whole bunch. Check out Schulz Audio. Links are all going to be in the description, and I'll see you all soon. Happy mixing.